Alright, so from the videos, you recall that he could read half of a brief in as an eighth of a candle burned. So there's a couple different ways that we could look at this to see how many briefs he could read per whole candle. And one way was with a number line. So the top one is the briefs and the bottom one is the candles. So the briefs read was a half, and each of these little tick marks is going to be another half. So I would have 1, 1.5, 2, 2.5 briefs, 3, 3.5 briefs, and 4 briefs. And every time it increased by half of a brief, an eighth of a candle would burn. So there's 1/8, 2/8, 3/8, 4/8, which is the same as a half, 5/8, 6/8, 7/8, and 1, because that's 8/8. So on here we said that there was a half of a brief per 1/8 of a candle. This is a ratio, and a ratio is a comparison of two quantities by division, and we'll show that in just a minute. So that's what we're going to do. This bar, this is, sometimes they call them a complex or a compound fraction, is a fraction within a fraction. But this bar here means divide. So what this looks like, if I write it a different way, is this. And then we will multiply its reciprocal. So anytime you have dividing with a fraction, you can change it to multiplying its reciprocal. If you want to do cross-canceling, you can. 2 goes into 2 once, and 2 goes into 8 4 times. 4 times 1 is 4, and there's a 1 on the bottom. We don't need that 1. And that's where we get briefs per candle. And when we're writing unit rates, we want to make sure that we put whatever the units are. How do I know what to write? Whatever's on top goes first, whatever's on bottom goes second. This slash here is like your fraction bar. So I said we would write what a ratio is. I already said what it was, but we're going to write it down. A ratio is a comparison of two quantities by division. So the two quantities we were comparing here were the briefs and the candles. Now we're going to look at a special kind of ratio, and it's called a unit rate. And that's what we did here. This is 4 briefs per candle. That means 4 briefs for every 1 candle. And what a unit rate is when it's a ratio, but the denominator, squeeze that in there, is 1. The denominator is 1. And how do I know how to set it up? If I'm trying to figure out which girl walks the fastest and I see that how many miles they did in how many hours, I want to know how many miles per hour each one walks. And so how do I know how to set it up? Whatever's listed first is the top number, whatever's listed second is the bottom number. So we're going to take each person, Regina, Angel, and Jamie, and we're going to calculate their unit rates. So it says that Regina walked 1 2/3 miles in 3/5 of an hour. So 1 2/3 miles in 3/5 of an hour. I'm going to change that to improper fraction. So 3 times 1 is 3 plus 2 is 5. So I got 5/3 divided by 3/5. I'm going to multiply its reciprocal. Excuse me. 5/3 times 5/3. There's nothing to cross cancel, so I'm going to multiply across the top and bottom. And I get 25 over 9. 9 goes in 2 times, 7 left over. And you can abbreviate miles per hour as MPH. You'll probably see that on car commercials, miles per hour. All right, for Angel. She walked 1 7/8 miles in 5/6 of an hour, and you can abbreviate all of your units. So I'm going to turn this into improper, and that's going to give me 8 plus 7, which is 15/8, divided by 5/6. I'm then going to multiply by its reciprocal. Don't forget to do that part. To avoid having big numbers, I'm going to cross cancel. 5 goes into 5 once and 15 3 times. 2 goes into 6 3 times, and 2 goes into 8 4 times. I get a 9 on top, a 4 on the bottom. 4 goes in 2 times with 1/4 left over, and it's miles per hour. You can abbreviate or write it out. And the last one is Jamie. She walked 2 miles in 3/4 of an hour. I'm going to turn this into a fraction, put a 1 under it, divided by 3/4, because that's what that bar means. I'm going to multiply its reciprocal. There is nothing to cross cancel, so when you multiply across the top, you get 8. Across the bottom, you get 3. 3 goes into 8 2 times with 2/3 left over. Miles per hour. So we want to know who went the fastest. Well, 1/4 is definitely the slowest. If I turn 2/3 into ninths, that would be times 3 6/9. So 7/9 is a little more than 6/9. So Regina walked the fastest. Now we're going to do some unit rates and compare prices. When you're trying to figure out prices and you're trying to compare which one's the most expensive and least expensive, of course the cheapest one is the least expensive and it's the best buy. You always want to do money per whatever. In this case it's per pounds. Okay, so per pound. I want to do money per pound. That means I'm going to put the money on the top and I'm going to put the pounds on the bottom. Now you see that it's 4 1/4. If this is a decimal and you know it's a terminating decimal, you can go ahead and change that 1/4 to 0.25, okay? So then you're going to use your calculator, 3.50 divided by 4.25. I didn't use my calculator on the fractions because it actually takes longer to type it in than to just do it. This is money that we're dealing with. You see there's a 3 next to the 2, so I'm going to round this to 82 cents per pound. All right, the next one is $2.75 for 3.5 pounds, which 3.5 pounds, I should have put pounds here, 3.5 pounds is the same as 3.5. I'm going to type in 2.75 divided by 3.5. And I see I have a 5 next to the 8, so I'm going to round that up to a 79 cents per pound. The last one is $4 for 5 1/4 pounds. Well, the quarter is 0.25, so I'm going to type in 4 divided by 5.25. There's a 1 next to the 6, so it's going to stay a 6 per pound. All right, so I want least expensive was letter C. That was this one here. Then B is the next least expensive, and the most expensive was A. All right, let's find some unit rates for these items. I'm doing $4.60 for 5 cans, so I got $4.60, 5 cans. I don't care if you label in here as much as the final answer, okay? So I've got $4.60 divided by 5, and that is 92. So that is money, 92 cents per can. Here's where you have to label. You have to show it's money, and you have to have that slash because that means per, and that indicates that it's for 1 can. I'm going to do $3,015 for 36 people. How do I know what goes first? Whatever's listed first goes on top and is divided first. Divided by 36, and I get $83.75 per person. Make sure you don't write per people. All right, next I have 55 pages in 25 minutes. Okay, page, min, if you want, you don't have to do there, but you do it when you're done. You have to label it for the actual unit rate. 2.2, 2.2 pages per minute. And some things you can abbreviate, and that's totally okay. All right, now you're going to move on to your applying the standard. You're going to be doing everything in the applying the standard on page 8. So you're going to set these up as divisions. Okay, you can turn the this one into a decimal if you'd like. This one I would do the keep change flip. It's probably faster than using the calculator, and I would use the calculator for these ones. Same thing down here when you're trying to figure out a better buy or you're trying to figure out running rates. Be careful with that. Okay, and then on the back page you're going to figure out which one eats the pies the fastest. So you're doing pies per minute, right? So if you do pie per minute, that means the pie goes on top, the minutes goes on the bottom, so you're going to keep, change, flip. And like I said, probably faster when you have these easy fractions to just do them by hand than to type them into the calculator. It takes a while. You do not have to do this bottom one. Okay? When you're done with that, you'll watch the video with the answers for that.